Hello everybody, playing some Star Trek Online, and today as a topic point, I think I will talk about content releases. Now, as you can see, the game is quite popular, and on launch it was a lot like this. Tons of ships everywhere. And, yeah, after a point though, it kind of shrank. So, the first month came and went, and it shrank. Then after that, there was another big exodus. And this is what happens with MMOs. So you have a launch, you'll have your surge. With Star Trek Online, it is about 1.5 million. With Star Wars The Old Republic, it'll be closer to 2.5, 3 million people. So you'll have a surge. And then you're going to have a dip off, where people are going to quit. It's just going to happen. And, certain games last a little longer than others. For Star Trek Online, it was like a month. For Star Wars The Old Republic, it looks like it's going to be closer to about 3 or 4 months before the dip-off happens. And so after the dip-off, there are going to be people who stick around to see what happens. And these are going to be kind of your core people for developing. And in order to keep these people in the game, you have to develop content that first they'll enjoy, and second, that will be released quickly. So Star Trek Online had the unfaithful problem of being released roughly around the same time as when massive raids were still very popular. And so everyone was expecting every single MMO to come out to release these massive raids as content. And Star Trek is actually a fantastic universe to have massive raids in. Because, just think of, if you're a Star Trek fan, the battle for Deep Space Nine. This takes place in one of the final seasons of Deep Space Nine. And it's this big, massive battle between Federation and Founder ships, where you have, thousands of ships clashing at each other, possibly the single biggest battle that Star Trek has ever had. The only thing it compares to it is, like, the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans all ganging up on one Borg cube. But that doesn't compare because there's only one Borg cube total. So, Star Trek has potential for big, massive encounters. And so what Star Trek did was they made a promise. They said they're going to have this big encounter coming up. People were pretty happy with it, and the encounters are going to be called missions instead of raids, so they sound very Star Trekian. And, what they got was something different. First off, and this is one of the big killers for MMOs, was massive delays. So, initially Cryptic Studios promised a monthly update to Star Trek Online. And then every month you get, a new mission for a single-player mission, or you might get a new little group content, or you might get something, right? This is a promise that also was made by Tryon Studios. Made the exact same promise. And the reason why they made these promises is because both companies used a method of development called content creation models. And basically what happens here is you build a very basic game. And this is pretty damn basic. And from the basic game, you can take elements and move them around and shape things. You don't even need a full-on designer. You can have, a kid design these things, right? All because you have this content creation method. This is something similar to... if any of you have played the Elder Scrolls series, Elder Scrolls Morrowind came out with a mod pack that would allow modders to, make whatever they want. And so, people came up with naked stuff. And it's just a simple tool that anyone can use. And, with Morrowind, people use it and still use it. There are still mods out for Morrowind. The mod pack that they released with Morrowind is also usable in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and I believe Skyrim as well, where people are still working on mods for Skyrim. So that's what the team of Tryon and the team of Cryptic Studios are working with. Something like this, just basically like a little mod pack type scenario. Obviously, Tryon Studios has done a little bit of extra work as well with having this post level cap leveling system they invented. But all the content that comes out is basically designed through this, so it's very, very easy to get content out. And of course, Tryon obviously never kept their promise, but neither did Cryptic. And what both of them would figure out is that the kind of content they could release was really crappy, and it wouldn't keep people entertained. What people were always looking for were these big, fantastic updates, these big, giant new raids, and unfortunately, they couldn't keep that. So it took about 4 months for them to get their first update out, which is, as far as MMOs go, you might as well just pull the plug on it because it's over by then. People had already left the game. I came back to see what the content was, and then I subsequently canceled and left. And this is something that's really big in a lot of games. So Star Wars The Old Republic is also having this current problem as well. The only thing they have going for them is that, unlike with Star Trek Online, people are no longer expecting big, massive encounters. Actually, what they expect is these much smaller encounters. So when Star Wars The Old Republic does these 8-man fights, well, that's actually fine. People are happy with that. But ironically, when another game tries to do something like that, well, it kind of gets lauded at. Like, this is just not appropriate. Flank damage. So, Star Trek Online, when they came out, like I said, people were expecting a big, massive encounter, and what they got instead was basically the equivalent of basically a regular 5-man dungeon that you'd have in normal places, and that obviously didn't win anybody over. I think I'm killing these by myself. I don't think I even have a crew. There's a fire here. And yeah, that did not win anybody over. People hated the idea, and it's like when you have a 5-man dungeon, you really only want to do it like once. That's it, right? You don't want to do a 5-man dungeon more than that. After that, you're just grinding. And with the MMOs that are coming out these days, people were basically expecting you to. That's interesting. People were expecting you to have a lot of content out pretty fast, and they weren't. There it is. So yeah, that was sucking pretty big for our friends at Cryptic Studios, and unfortunately, it just kept getting worse and worse for them. Like, they were just never, ever able to come up with something awesome that could really compete in a feasible manner. So their next update after that would come out, I think, maybe 5 months after, and it'd be another crappy 5-man dungeon again. So at some point, the folks at Cryptic realized that their model was no longer feasible. They had to do something different. And so basically, what they came up with was you can now use the character creation model that they use themselves, and they made it available to people. Now, this is something that they hinted on for quite a while, right? This is not intended to be like big surprise content that it would be if WoW allowed that. If WoW did allow that, that'd be huge. User created content was a really, really, really big topic in MMOs, because a lot of MMOs with specifically popular IPs like Star Trek, Star Wars, Conan the Barbarian, Warhammer, World of Warcraft, let's see what's more, Warhammer 40k, really any of these guys, they have a certain popular franchise that the players will want to maintain. I'm being attacked by the flames. So when Cryptic announced their character creation stuff, I mean, this was actually pretty huge, and it brought the game community back. Cryptic Studios was apparently growing in the last year. Their subscriber base, after Charlie left and Perfect World came in to play, the subscriber base jumped from something like 100,000 to 400,000. It was growing in such a massive way, and it was kind of bizarre actually when they announced the free-to-play switch, because here they, like, I wasn't playing the game, but here they had a game that was actually growing. It's bizarre. Who makes a game that's growing free-to-play? Like, it's such a hard move. But the influence of Perfect World on them definitely was what brought them in. Their Foundry system is, it's actually great, and I suspect that every single game that Cryptic Studios makes or will be making will have the Foundry in it. It's rather unfortunate, and everyone will say this, it's rather unfortunate that they did not introduce this on launch. If they would have had the foresight to imagine that people would actually want to do this, which basically everyone already knew, then they would have had one of the most popular games in the world. Currently, most popular MMOs in the world, World of Warcraft, 8 or 9 free-to-play games, and, like, being around, like, somewhere between 10th and 15th place is Minecraft, which costs, like, $20, and no subscription fees, but most importantly, it has enough freedom to play in it that you can do whatever you want. And like, all gaming developers have been really backwards on that. They just haven't seen that trend. And like Star Trek, many people thought like, oh, it's a theme park game, but it's not really a theme park game. I mean, it has a lot of theme park elements, but it never really was theme park completely. It had a lot of open-ended crap to it that you could do with choices, and so yeah, it was just moderately open-ended or theme parked. And if they would have seen early on that the goal that they should be having is not to theme park the game more, which is what they were trying to do, but instead open it up so that characters can make their own stuff, or people can make their own stuff, they would have done so much better. Star Trek has, I would say, top 3 biggest fan bases in the world. The only reason why I don't say number 1 is because it's really hard to tally it up. Like, Blizzard has a really, really big following, and you can see that visually at their one giant conference, but Star Trek has multiple conferences being held all over the world. So I think Star Trek could be the highest fan base for an IP. Maybe Star Wars might be a little bit better. Hard to say. But yeah, like, fan fiction is huge. And, back then, building a game for fan fiction just seemed silly, right? But as it turns out, there are a lot of great mission developers who develop really, really, really good missions. And as they put the Foundry in, this actually allowed them to, it's a lot of guys, really cash in on this, and a lot of these guys would eventually become employees of Cryptic. That's how, that's how much Cryptic thought of these guys. So I think that's going to be my rant on openings. Just, game developers, if they want to be successful, they have to A, keep their promises. Don't make outlandish ones like, promising to introduce new content every single month. That was kind of silly. And on top of that, if you're going to have a content, release it on time. Actually tell people what it is so they don't get upset. And if you tell people that your entire game is based around 5 bands, they will probably not recruit these big giant 500-man guilds, right? And that's kind of the kicker, right? If you tell people you're going to do this massive raid content eventually, everyone's going to recruit and gear up 20, 30-man guild. But if you tell everyone that content's going to be based around 5 people, well, suddenly you can just play with your friends. You don't have to recruit these asshole strangers to your guild. I guess I'm gonna kill these guys. evasive maneuvers. Yeah, like that was kind of like one of the huge killers for Cryptic, was the fact that they were promising stuff that they never had any intentions of releasing ever, and like that was a huge disappointment for fans, and it was a huge disappointment for players. So yeah, that's like a big part of it, was the fact that you have to at least be honest. And I'm not sure if it was Cryptic developers weren't being honest or they couldn't balance it right. Space games in general have problems with going massive. Space games, and you'll notice this, let's say Command & Conquer versus Sins of a Solar Empire. Space games generally have more elements around, just stuff floating all over the place. They're massive, they're bigger, and it's really hard to compact them in such a way so that you can have multiple people on the same map. Like you saw when I was in the sector space, like that was laggy as shit. There's like 100 people there. You can't have that. You can do that on the ground missions because the ground missions are extremely limited. But you can't really do that in big giant space missions because it just turns into a lag fest. So, I'm not saying that they entirely lied. It's possible that they might have intended to release it, but then after trying to do it, just never worked. But at that point, they should say to people, like, we're not doing what we said we'd do, and everyone would be pretty much fine with that, as long as you're being honest, which they weren't. So I'm just gonna... What? I cannot equip that item. I just want to equip some items. Let's see what we get here. Engineering console. I think I want inertial dampeners. I don't think they do. Okay. I need an engineering console, apparently. Is there an engineering console? You're a data recorder. Alright, we'll get that later. So, rounding down this mission, these are quite long, but they're also very casual friendly. Like, I probably play about 30 minutes a day, and I can get a bit of mission done a day, so that's not too bad. Bingo! Take all. Combo breaker. So, Star Wars: The Old Republic. They have the promise of their first content release. Now, Star Wars: The Old Republic, unlike Star Trek Online, is doing something right, and they're informing people, or making sure people know that this will not be massive, like 40-player content, that it will in fact be like very small, like 6 to 8-player content. And that's fine, because the market has done a massive shift. MMOs have shifted over to people who rather do epic 5-mans than people who do big, giant, massive raids with 40 people. The RVR crowd, which is always kind of jumping in the face of every theme park MMO that ever comes out, they're always kind of like, oh my god, like, why doesn't this game have, like, massive RVR content? Like, why doesn't it have zone-wide events and blah, blah, blah? And the reason is because that's not in demand anymore. It might have been in demand back in the days of Dark Age of Camelot, which is kind of the token RVR, which is realm versus realm. The idea that you're having these massive, huge battles. But that's not where we're at anymore. Right now we're in smaller micro battles, and people will actually enjoy them better because that's less about massing up people and more about just having fun, playing skillfully, I guess you'd say. People really do not like big battles anymore. So, Star Wars: The Old Republic releasing smaller content, but will they hit their deadline? Their deadline is what will make or break Star Wars: The Old Republic. Because basically with them, either they can do it, and that will allow people to know that they are in fact going to be doing something pretty epic, or they don't do it, and now they know that the BioWare team in charge of this is actually just, these weak sauce guys. Man, this shell is pretty terrible. Man, Yeah, that's what's going to make or break Star Wars: The Old Republic. Like I said, probably I'm predicting 4 months. They're gonna have this big dip in subscribers, and I say 4 months for that game because there's 8 races or 8 classes. Each one has 2 subclasses, but each of the 8 classes has its own story. So people who are buying this game as a single player experience, which is a lot of people, are going to want to play every single one of these, and they're going to call them campaigns instead of leveling experiences or whatever. So once that happens, the game will just suddenly sort of vanish off. And suddenly, there's going to be a gamer base gone, obviously. And the people who stay will be the endgame content mongrels. And I call them mongrels because these are people who basically only play MMOs because it's the only genre that will allow them to actually do content in a long period of time. These are people who, I leveled up. Leveled up my smuggler good. What was it? I did it in 11 days. I think it was about 11, 12 days maybe. But besides that, it was, I enjoyed it. I took my time with it. Obviously, I listened to all the stories. But there are people who won't be listening to all the stories. They will, in fact, just be kind of sitting there, rubbing their junk, saying "Oh, I can't wait till the next content comes out." After skipping all the dialogue, all the stuff, and they're not going to level up more classes like a lot of people are. Instead, they're just going to spend all their time complaining about how there's no new content updates. And yeah, those are the people who are going to stick around, ironically, because if they played any other game, it would last a day or 2 tops. And I can say this because I'm one of them guys. There are still people still playing Skyrim. Right, they're still trying to find all the secrets and all the stuff, and I already found them all. I didn't do videos on it. I streamed it all, and people watched it. And now there's a whole bunch of cocksuckers stealing all my secrets, but I don't care. Right, I had fun with it. I enjoyed it, but I was able to conquer it in very little time at all. It's not that it's not a bad game or anything. It's just that games like Skyrim and really RPGs in general are designed for a more casual crowd. Shut down shield generators. MMOs are kind of a scenario where it's if you have nothing to do, you can make up your own content, and even if that content sucks, which self-created, user-created stuff, 99% of the time sucks. 1% of the time you make something like Counter-Strike. But yeah, every now and then you get something that's awesome, but most of it sucks. Even if it sucks, it's still something to do. Right, the reason why there's a lot of these really stupid games, I hate them all. Games like Happy Wheels and Terraria, which I will eventually be doing a video on. What's another game that's really popular? And Minecraft with 2 million plus players. All these games, they're pretty they're pretty bad. They have really shitty graphics. The actual stuff to do in the game that is guided to you is pretty crappy. It's kind of like Gary's mod over and over. But it's all user-created content. You can make up your own fun, and it's kind of like when I don't want to call my my fans babies, but it's kind of like when you give a baby a box, right? And inside the box is a big playset. Now, some babies are more interested in the box than the playset, and that's basically your user-created content guys. They don't want to be taken on a ride. They want to go in the box. And it's simple, it's basic, but it meets their needs because these are people who just otherwise would devour content far too fast. First person mode. Time to shoot these guys. So yeah, I changed the key for first person mode for myself to B. That way I just know where it is and I don't get lost. Somebody did tell me eventually like how the hell you get out of this first person mode. But yeah, I just figured I would do it myself and a favor and keybind it myself so I would have an easy access one. So yeah, that's also a pretty big explanation of why Star Trek Online, the free-to-play version, is so insanely popular. Like, I suspect that Star Trek Online free-to-play is probably as popular or more popular than Star Wars The Old Republic. Right? You're all going like, oh, bullshit, shovel, bullshit. But if you look at the people who are always on, and this is a weird fucking time, right? This is people playing a game at, like, you know, basically mom and dad syndicate TV show time. Nobody plays games during this time. I go on Star Wars and any zone has like 3 or 4 people tops. I go here and it's like, you know, there's 200 people in the beginning zone loading screens. There's 500 people in the end game loading screens. Like, that's really weird. Wouldn't you think? For a game that, you know, otherwise would not be popular. So I think this game's really, really popular right now. I think that's in part because the game did a really good job of attracting a very user content created fan base who have been very successful in promoting the game and basically just bringing back people who once played the game quite prolifically and now do not. Can I get headshots here? Go away. I don't want you, trooper. And yeah, their free-to-play is going pretty well. And just, you know, bringing back in the theme of, you know, good and bad launches. Their free-to-play experience is going pretty well, right? People are coming back because there's a backlog of about 2 years of content that people are willing to try out. But, I mean, that's the honeymoon, baby. It's only going to last so long. So eventually it's going to be the responsibility of Cryptic or their gamer base, which is a kind of ironic twist, to create content to keep people in the game. Now, currently there's so much content that nobody can do it. There's good missions, there's crap missions, and like there's tons of websites that can tell you which missions are worthwhile. There's actually more Star Trek Online fan sites than probably any MMO that I've ever played, which is really weird. Mostly probably because it's Star Trek. But yeah, you can get that all there. The content will be devoured, like, not too fast, considering that free play crowds usually don't devour things so crazily fast. But it will be pretty eventual that they're going to run out of content and they're going to have something else. And this is where our friends at Cryptic have to kind of whoopee or get off the pot, as my mom would say. Eventually, it's going to come to the point where Cryptic Studios is going to have to produce something significant, and it's going to have to be good. And that's going to be kind of the killer here. They have to make something good, something that's going to wow people, which is something that they haven't been able to do thus far. And if they can wow people again, they're going to have themselves a very popular franchise. They're going to see themselves having lots of item shop sales, because my experience with item shops is that people, although they do buy a lot of items to get themselves ahead, a lot of people just buy items to support the gamer, or the developer, I should say. Because right now, they don't have a lot of great stuff out. They released a mission for Deep Space Nine, where, you know, there's the wars going on, the founders are back. That's interesting. I like that. but I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so maybe those non-Star Trek fans playing this game might not enjoy that so much. They did expand the leveling experience, meaning basically like a lot of the old content they created is null and void. So, at some point they're going to have to come up with something different, new, fresh. And that's really all I should say on that. Now I just equipped something new here. And let's see, increases target run speed, 50% hull damage. That's weird. Okay, we'll use that and see what happens. I now have this ability. So these guys used to be pretty tough. You have to like kite them because they're deathly touching. But apparently they just fall over now. Maybe the captain's more like the kiter type. Yeah, I think I'm done with talking with game releases. Just want to get this done. Kill myself some Hodka. Time to die, Hodka. So, in any kind of scenario where you're killing stuff, the generalized goal you want to do here is to... Oh, shoot through walls, that's awesome. Is kill off his ads first, because they all die pretty fast. You want one person tanking who can kite. And that would be me right now, so I'm doing that. And he's going to keep throwing these boulders at me. Nothing I can really do about that. And... Alright, I guess that's it. Pretty exciting stuff. There's another captain over here. A rackwig. Another rackwig. I do like this first person mode. It's actually really, really cool. And I like how it actually does give bonus damage. That's another big plus. Alright. Do I got new mail? Items sold. I don't think that's new mail. 2010. Yeah, it's definitely not new mail. So we will... It's ops. Beam up to the ship. I'd be interested to know what user-created missions are actually in the game right now. Because apparently they did add some of the user-created missions to the main gaming experience. The hostage ship. So, I did change out one thing here. My science guy here now has jammers, so I won't be taking as much damage. This is pretty much required for PvP for the first few levels. Stupid photon mines. Pretty much required for PvP for the first few levels. They're really, really still great at later levels. And the reason why is because it gives you like an out, or it gives you a way of supporting your teammates so that they can, not get hit so badly. And yeah, I would love if I could play this game on my gamepad. Like, this ship combat would be awesome on the gamepad, but unfortunately, it sucks. I do have a program called Pinnacle, and that's how I play Star Wars The Old Republic on the gamepad. Well, I don't play all of it. I only play like the space missions on gamepad, and that's pretty good. So I just pop this thing, just like give my chance for my shields to regenerate a little bit. Oh well, I'm pickling down his shield. Yeah. No, I have to run through the photon minefield. The game does offer countermeasures for this. I just don't have any. Basically, every single move here has a kind of counter to it. And, yeah, I'm not deploying counters right now for anything, really. This is a counter for, like, big photon missiles. This is just a defensive cooldown, but there's a counter to that. It's energy-draining weapons. And this one is no counter, but there is a counter to it, which would be this one. Kind of ironic. I didn't kill it, though. Alright, guess that's it. Yes. Let's return the sector space. This is getting awkward.
Hull integrity below 75%.
Oh, come on. Don't do this to me. You're a piece of shit. You know that? God, I hate you. So I'm in this green gas, and that's why I'm taking damage. And once I'm out, it should be fine. Okay, back to sector space. Return to sector space. So, you know, game looking pretty good right now. If you're looking to try this out, definitely worthwhile. I always attempt to click on these. These are group missions where you just go fight Borg together. But I must go on and do other things. Research and rescue complete. Oh, inventory is full. Can't believe my entire spaceship is full. So yeah, that's it for me for the day. Next week, I will be doing a little bit more missions, and I'll have lots more fun. So join me next week, and I will do something cool. See you then.